Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of This Week in Sports. I'm your host, Romeo Sharpe. We have a lot to discuss. We got a lot to dive into today. So let's just get right into it with our first topic being Super Bowl 59. Let's get right into it. So the Philadelphia Eagles defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22. The Philadelphia Eagles had a 345 total yards of offense as opposed to Kansas City's 275 total yards of offense. The Kansas City Chiefs, led by Patrick Mahomes, were struggling. They were struggling. They had no answers for that front seven of the Philadelphia Eagles. They got to Patrick Mahomes 6 times in this game. 6 times. I've never seen Patrick Mahomes that fluttered before. I never seen him that flustered. I have not. The last time I can remember is when he played Tom Brady in the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers, and they were getting pressure on him. That first half was the first half to forget for the Kansas City Chiefs. They got shut out. It was 24-0 by halftime. The offense looked lackluster. The defense couldn't stop a wall. The writing was on the wall for them. But as we all know, you can never count out Patrick Mahomes. In that first half, Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles went down and scored their first touchdown in the first quarter using their specialty, the tush push. Now, throughout the entire Super Bowl, I've only seen the tush push used once. So that goes to show how dominant the Philadelphia Eagles really were. They didn't have to rely on it. Jalen Hurts relied on his arm, he relied on his legs, and he relied on the defense. Jalen Hurts was 17 for 22, 221 passing yards. He accounted for 3 touchdowns, 1 rushing. He threw an interception early in the first quarter. Didn't amount to anything for the Kansas City Chiefs, luckily. He had 11 carries for 72 yards. By the way, that's the most rushing yards of all time in the Super Bowl by a quarterback, beating his own record that he set in Super Bowl 57 against these very own Chiefs of 70. He was, however, sacked 2 times in that first half. He won Super Bowl MVP. Me personally, he played well enough for it. But if they had 11 of the MVP trophies, I'd give it to the defense. The reason being is, like I said, they got to Patrick Mahomes 6 times. They strip sacked him once. They got a pick 6 on him, and then they intercepted him again. Another fun fact, quirky fact for y'all. Cooper DeJean, the rookie cornerback that they drafted out of Iowa for the Eagles, he's the first player to score a touchdown at the Super Bowl on his birthday. Saquon Barkley's birthday was that day, too. Kansas City held their end of the bargain when trying to stop Saquon. This is now 19 straight playoff games that the Kansas City Chiefs have allowed a rusher less than 100 yards rushing. That's incredible. I give Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid their flowers. It just simply wasn't enough. Saquon had 25 carries for 57 yards. He was only averaging 2.3 yards a carry. They were loading the box on him. He is the offensive player of the year. And I'll get into the NFL honors. We'll get into that shortly. He also had 6 catches for 40 yards, mounting to 97 total scrimmage yards. So again, the Kansas City Chiefs did what they had to do against Saquon. They just kind of forgot about everybody else. By the way, with Saquon, with those carries he had for that 57 yards, he broke the single season record for most rushing yards in a season, including the playoffs. That record was once held 26 years ago by Denver Broncos' Terrell Davis. That record stood for 26 years. 26 years. And it took Saquon leaving the New York Giants to achieve something like that. Again, it was a lackluster performance from the Kansas City Chiefs on the offensive side of the ball. The running game was non-existent, but Patrick Mahomes was 21 of 32 for 257 passing yards. He had 3 touchdowns. He did throw 2 picks, one leading to being a pick 6. And this is just isn't going to cut it. He was their leading rusher. He had 4 carries for 25 yards. Nobody else on the Kansas City Chiefs surpassed even double-digit yardage. That's not going to win you football games. And again, the offensive line was completely dominated by the Philly front 4. Let's keep it real. It was their front 4. What's crazy is Vic Fangio, he put together this masterclass that he didn't even send a blitz on any one of his plays. All of his pass rushes were just straight up their front 4. Jalen Carter, N'Kobe Dean, all those guys. Like they just got to them with their power moves, swim moves, all that. Now the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, he did try to claw back late in the fourth quarter. They did put up 16 points in that fourth quarter, but it just wasn't enough. Keep in mind, Philadelphia pulled all their starters, so again, it was just a masterclass from Vic Fangio and that defense. They made Patrick Mahomes. They brought him back down to earth. It's crazy though to think. It is kind of crazy to think that back in Week 6, Philly fans were calling for Nick Sirianni, their head coach, to be fired. Actually, in their home stadium, while they're playing the Cleveland Browns, all because they had a slow 2-2 start. But you know what? They went on and went 17-1 the rest of the way, and then win the Super Bowl. We got to give a shout out to Howie Roseman, the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles. He built that roster. He's been to the Super Bowl 2 times out of the last 3 seasons. Let's just look at the offseason acquisitions leading up to this Super Bowl, and how these players or coaches played a huge role in this Super Bowl victory on Sunday. They acquired Vic Fangio in the offseason as their defensive coordinator, and he's a hot commodity. A lot of people wanted him. A lot of people. He led this team to the number 1 ranked defense in the NFL. And it showed on Sunday. Kellen Moore, the offense coordinator, came over from Dallas as the quarterback coach. Used to be a quarterback himself. Was third string for the Dallas Cowboys. He said he goes to his division rivals. Comes over to Philly. And then they get the newly named, actually, Offensive Player of the Year, Saquon Barkley. They pick up Zach Bond in free agency. Zach Bond on Sunday played a huge role. 7 tackles. Had that 1 pick. And their 2 rookies, star-studded rookies that they drafted in this previous draft. Cooper DeJean, he had 3 tackles, and he had the pick 6. And then Quinyon Mitchell, who was a first-rounder, he had 3 tackles. They all contributed. Saquon, Kellen Moore, Vic Fangio, Zach Bond. Give Howie Roseman his flowers for that. That's how you build a Super Bowl roster. Other guys stepped up too. Devontae Smith, late in that third quarter. They were already up 27-0. There was no need for them to, throw a bomb or anything of that nature. Jalen Hurts throws a 50-yard touchdown pass to him, and then they're up 34-0. That's when I think everyone realized they put their foot on their necks and wanted everyone to feel the Philadelphia Eagles. Other players contributed too. Jahan Dotson, A.J. Brown stepped up, had a touchdown catch. Again, Jalen Hurts won Super Bowl MVP. It was a team effort for sure. It was definitely a team effort. All around, that was probably one of the cleanest performances I've seen from a team in the Super Bowl in a really long time. But we do have to give our flowers to that defense. Moving forward, for the Kansas City Chiefs, they're not going anywhere. They're not. They still have Patrick Mahomes at the helm. And they might need to pick up a few more pieces. They need to beef up that offensive line after seeing what happened in this Super Bowl. You got to get Patrick. If you look at the season as a whole, you need to get Patrick Mahomes protection. He can only do so much. He is a freak athlete, but he can only do so much. As for the Eagles, same thing. They're really not going anywhere themselves. They're just getting started, I believe. I could see this Philadelphia Eagles team coming back and repeating in Super Bowl 60 in San Francisco. They could hoist the Lombardi for a third time in their franchise history, bearing it any horrific injuries or anything like that. I could see him do it. As for KC, they were probably the roughest 15-2 team I've ever watched. And I believe it was in 11 of their 17 games this year, they were one-score games. They were undefeated, but it comes a time when someone comes and punches you in the mouth. And the Eagles did that. This is definitely something they can learn from. This is. Patrick Mahomes isn't going anywhere, everyone. We still got to deal with him. But Jalen Hurts has proven that he is a bona fide winner. He's won in college. He's won in the NFL. Nick Sirianni, get him off the hot seat. Why? I don't know why he was on the hot seat. Why was he on the hot seat? Take him off the hot seat. Philly fans, you guys could be pretty dangerous. That's for sure. You expect a lot. It's a respectful city. They earn their respect. But this Super Bowl proves that with a good D-line, a great D-line, if you develop that front four on the defensive side, you know the saying, everyone. We all say it. Defense wins championships. The Eagles proved that. They proved that. They were ranked top 2 in every major statistic. They proved that. The Chiefs just didn't have enough gas left in the tank. It was a rough 15-2 year for them. They only realistically only lost one game. Make it 2 now, but they realistically only lost 2 games this year to the Josh Allen-led Buffalo Bills and then to these Philadelphia Eagles. They lost to Denver, they did, but they lost to the backups because they already had the number 1 seed locked up. So that Patrick Mahomes-led team, in that regular season at least, only lost 1 game. And again, that was to Josh Allen. Josh Allen, by the way, who was named the AP NFL MVP. It's not a sore eye to lose to the MVP. Overall, though, this Super Bowl 59, it closes another chapter in the book. The Philadelphia Eagles win their 2nd Super Bowl in franchise history, and they stifle Patrick Mahomes and that Kansas City Chiefs team that was looking to get that three-peat, to etch their name in more history, to even put Patrick Mahomes. The conversations are getting close, y'all. The conversations are getting close with him and Tom Brady. They're getting closer and closer. But this loss just kind of proves, kind of settles everyone down, kind of settles you down. For sure settled me down. Let me know what y'all think. Again, congratulations to Philly, to the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts, your Super Bowl MVP. Shout out to that defense. Let me know what y'all think. Or were you looking for a reason for this Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady debate to heat up? Are you happy that Casey lost? Me personally, I am. You guys let me know what you think. Like I said, it simmers the Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes GOAT conversation just for an off season. Just for an off season. We'll circle back on this debate by February of next year. So we still have a lot to talk about regarding the NFL honors, and then we'll get into that later on in the show. But for now, let's get into some other news circulating around the league. So we have some breaking news this week. 3 All-Pro players are on the move. Myles Garrett has requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns 1 week after the Browns GM stated that he wants Myles Garrett to be a Brown for life. The LA Rams reached out to Cooper Kupp and told him that they will be shopping him around. Also, Debo Samuels requested a trade from the San Francisco 49ers. I can understand why Myles Garrett wants to request a trade. He's not getting any younger. The team isn't getting any better. The Cleveland Browns are in a cap space full of hell. The Deshaun Watson contract has really messed up the future of the Browns. And Myles Garrett is now in a win now mentality. I understand why Myles Garrett wants a trade. Deshaun Watson is getting tuggies and happy endings. Hell, he blew his Achilles out again, and he wasn't even playing. What kind of tuggy was he getting? Let's think about that. What kind of tuggy blows out your Achilles? I'm sure Myles Garrett is sick of it. He's in a win now mentality. The Cleveland Browns are in cap hell right now with that Deshaun Watson contract. They got to get rid of it. They got to get rid of him. No more happy endings for him. He just wants to win. He's proven that he's one of the greatest defensive players to date. He's always in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. He needs to go somewhere where he belongs, where he can win, where he can feel that ecstasy of just being in the playoffs, getting to a Super Bowl. As for Cooper Kupp, I can understand why the LA Rams want to shop him out. Albeit he's an All-Pro too. He's a Triple Crown winner too, y'all. Let's not forget. I believe it was in 2021, Cooper Kupp led the league in receiving yards, catches, and touchdowns. He is not no scrub. But he carries a hefty contract. And the Rams are young now. They're a younger team. They still got to deal with Matthew Stafford. But the up-and-coming rising star, Puka Nacua, has proven that they just don't need Cooper. Too many mouths to feed. As for Debo, I feel like this situation in San Fran has been going on for like the last 2-3 years. Same situation, too many mouths to feed. Debo gets that label as the diva. I'm sure he wants to win now too. It was a lackluster year for the 49ers. It was a lackluster year for the Cleveland Browns. The Rams, they made the playoffs. Again, but with the Cooper Kupp situation, I think they just want to put him in the best position, knowing that they're just not going to give him the ball anymore. Like I said, they're going young. The Niners, they got too many mouths to feed with Brandon Ayuk there. Christian McCaffrey. Brock Purdy, his contract is already out of this world. Let me know how you guys feel about this. Funny enough, Matthew Stafford's wife, she has her own podcast too. I can't tell you what she said word for word, but she seemed visibly upset that they're shopping Cooper Kupp around. Seems as though her and probably the Kupp family have a pretty strong bond. Maybe they feel like he's getting the bad end of the stick. Now, there's some teams out here that can desperately need any one of these three. For Myles Garrett, I mean, he's already getting a recruiting pitch from Micah Parsons, the defensive end for the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, Micah Parsons might need to take a pay cut, and Myles Garrett got to take a pay cut. It would be a good fit for the Cowboys. That's a Super Bowl, like Micah Parsons says on his own podcast. That's a Super Bowl winning line. Maybe the Chargers. Joey Bosa is on the brinks of possibly getting traded himself or even getting released. Khalil Mack isn't getting any younger. Yeah, the Cowboys, the Chargers, the Cardinals. But again, Myles Garrett isn't win now, and Arizona situation, I don't think they're just quite there yet. For Cooper Kupp, you can send him on to New England. They need some veteran leadership over there. Drake May is going to be entering his second year in the NFL. Get him some help. You get him a receiver like Cooper Kupp, you can see a lot of growth in Drake May. Or send him to Denver. Denver's been needing that wide receiver too for quite some time now. Cortland Sutton can't do it all. They're younger though, so I can't see them picking up that contract with still dealing with the Russell Wilson contract. But again, they're younger. Devon Vele, Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims. But a vet like Cooper Kupp could make a strong push for Bo Nix. As for Debo, if you guys aren't familiar with Debo's game, he's like a gadget guy. He can play anywhere on the field. Receiver, you can put him in the backfield, put him at quarterback. Sean Payton has said he's been looking for a gadget guy. So Denver could be a spot for him as well. Again, the contract situation, it's tough. He could go to New England. That's another top spot. That's a young quarterback in Drake May. Again, maybe Pittsburgh. Pair him up with George Pickens. Potentially Justin Fields taking over for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Who knows? I forgot to mention, though, another guy is actually on the move. He's a former Super Bowl champion as well. But he's getting up there in age. It was confirmed by Jay Glazer that Aaron Rodgers is not returning to the New York Jets. Whew, what a franchise that is. They put all their chips on to a 41-year-old quarterback, and the experiment failed. They tried to bring in Devontae Adams for him. They tried to please him. But it seems the two just didn't work out. That relationship was never going to work. Who knows where he'll go? Who knows? Who knows? There's teams that need a quarterback, but are you willing to take your shot on a 41-year-old quarterback coming off an Achilles injury the year before? Might not suit too well. With all these players on the move, wanting trades, it also brings me to our next topic, this coaching carousel. As you guys may know, there's a certain day. It's the first day after the regular season ends. They call it Black Monday. That's where coaches get fired, assistants get let go. Franchises want to just a clean slate. They probably fired a GM and, look forward to, hopefully a better future. This year, we've seen a few. 7 teams to be exact. Let's get into it. The 7 teams that fired their previous head coach are now looking for a new one were the Chicago Bears, the New England Patriots, the New York Jets, the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Dallas Cowboys, and the New Orleans Saints. Now, you may be asking, some of these teams, they used to be powerhouses. The New England Patriots. They hired Gerard Mayo for 1 year. They gave him 1 year, post Bill Belichick, 1 year. And they shipped him right off. He had the same exact roster as Bill Belichick had in his last year. What do you expect? He had a rookie quarterback, and they just shipped him on off. The Kraft family praised him, said how much they respect him and enjoy Gerard Mayo. He is a former player for them as well, but they just shipped him off and told him to go on his merry way. The Chicago Bears, they've just been kind of an abysmal franchise as of late. But they had the number 1 overall pick. They selected Caleb Williams. They have a solid defense. They picked up some key acquisitions in the offseason with Keenan Allen, getting him some help. Caleb Williams was in a perfect situation. But coaching can stunt growth. Matt Eberflus, the Chicago Bears head coach, did not know how to coach. Coaching malpractice is real. The New York Jets. Another, I wouldn't say dumpster fire of a franchise, but they're pretty much there right now. They do have really nice pieces around them. On the defense with Sauce Gardner. On the offense with Garrett Wilson. They have some pieces. The defense is solid. Got a young offense as well. The Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know if you guys remember the Urban Meyer days. It only lasted 13 games. Trent Baalke, the GM, he might be losing his mind. Let's just say that. But they have Trevor Lawrence, promising quarterback. They drafted a young wide receiver out of LSU and Brian Thompson. They can go up from there. The Raiders. I'm gonna be honest. That doesn't catch. I couldn't tell you what catches my eye besides Matt Crosby. But that could also be a trading piece for you. They only hold the 6th pick in the draft this year, so they kind of sold on their Shador Sanders dreams, possibly, or Cam Ward dreams. We have the Dallas Cowboys. They fired Mike McCarthy a week after the Chicago Bears requested to interview. And also we have the Saints. They got some pieces going over there. They're a young team as well. Alvin Kamara, Derek Carr, 2 young studs out of SD actually. But luckily, all those vacancies have been filled. So for the Chicago Bears, they hired Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator. I think that's a perfect fit for them. The Patriots were able to nab Mike Vrabel. The Jets hired Aaron Glenn. The Jags got Liam Cohen, former Bucks offensive coordinator. The Raiders got Pete Carroll. The Cowboys got Brian Schottenheimer. And this is just per Adam Schefter, actually. Barring any unexpected circumstances, Kellen Moore will be the next head coach for the New Orleans Saints. The Super Bowl champion, Kellen Moore, that is. So with all these revolving doors, it looks like some of these teams have a promising future. Others might be up in the air. We have some young guys getting their first opportunity as a coach. We have some guys coming back, like Mike Vrabel. He was the former Titans head coach. He also was a player as well. He played for the Patriots. And then Pete Carroll. He's probably one of the oldest coaches now in the NFL, I believe. Him and Andy Reid are up there for sure. But again, these teams have some bright futures. Some of these teams do have a lot to work on. The Raiders, the Jets, their quarterback situation, those are the main things. Because me personally, I'm not going to those. I'm not going to go coach those teams not knowing I don't have a quarterback. But you guys let me know down below, how do you feel about these hires? Do you agree with them? Do you think they should have gone another direction? Just let me know down below. Alrighty, everyone. Now with all that cleared up, kind of dived in a little bit into everything else happening around the league, let's get into our final topic of the day, the NFL Honors. Now, the NFL Honors is hosted the Thursday before the Super Bowl. It recognizes the top performers from the past campaign, from offensive to defensive rookie of the year, offensive player of the year, all the way to the most valuable player, the MVP. You got your superstars coming out. It's literally the Grammys for the NFL. That's how I describe it. You have your celebrities coming out. This year, we had Jelly Roll and Snoop Dogg dressed in all, like a whole, had the shoulder pads on and everything. It was kind of disturbing to see. Snoop Dogg's legs were a little skinny, but Jelly Roll just looked, kind of crazy. They look crazy in that gear. It was a good treat though for all of us, I believe. But let's get right into the NFL Honors though. Again, like I mentioned, the NFL Honors, they recognize the top performers at mainly every position, coaching, assistant coaches, the rookies. This year was no different. We had a lot of superstars. Like I mentioned, y'all, the NFL Honors, they recognize the top performers. On the offensive side, the defensive side, they recognize coaches, they recognize past players as well by uh, naming our Hall of Famers as well. And when I read off this list of names, you'll understand that they recognize excellence. That they recognize these players as being the top of the league, basically. Let's get into the winners, y'all. Your offensive player of the year was just recently in the Super Bowl, by the way. Saquon Barkley. Well deserved. Well deserved. He rushed for over 2,005 yards while only playing in 16 games. He sat the 17th game where he could have broke Eric Dickerson's record. He only needed 100 yards. He had 15 touchdowns, rushing touchdowns as well. I believe that was well deserved. For defensive player of the year, it was loaded, y'all. It was loaded. It was loaded with talent. We got T.J. Watt, Myles Garrett, Patrick Surtain II. Now, as many as y'all may know, the defensive player of the year, it's skewed towards defensive ends and linebackers. But this year is a little bit different. Patrick Surtain II, the corner for the Denver Broncos, won this award. By the way, he's only the 7th cornerback all time to win the award. The last guy to win that was Stephon Gilmore in 2019. Patrick Surtain was plastering receivers all year, not even giving up more than 45 receiving yards a game. He was locking up the likes of Jamar Chase, George Pickens, DK Metcalf. The list goes on. He had 4 interceptions to go with it. I think a QB passer rating of 34. So you had a better chance. You had a better chance of getting just throwing it into the ground than throwing it Patrick Surtain's way. It was incredible. It was an incredible year. He blanketed one side of the field. He shut down half of the field. And quarterbacks knew never to throw his way. We also had a strong list for the coach of the year. You had Kevin O'Connell, Dan Campbell, you had Sean Payton, Dan Quinn. All in all, though, Kevin O'Connell won this award. He led the Vikings to a 14-3 record while losing his rookie quarterback early on in the year. Pretty sure it was in OTAs or minicamp to a torn meniscus. And he took Sam Darnold, resurged Sam Darnold's career, and won him 14 games. That takes a lot of coaching. It does. Now, I believe it was really a toss-up, though, between him and his divisional rival, Dan Campbell, the head coach of the Lions, who led them to a 15-2 record, had the most wins in franchise history. And just his coaching style, he makes you want to run through a wall. For your comeback player of the year, now this award usually goes to guys that either get injured the year before or maybe kind of have a lackluster of a performance the year before. Majority of the time, it's for guys that probably had season-ending injuries. Joe Burrow won this award. He led the league in passing touchdowns, passing yards. Well deserved for Joe Burrow. Offensive Rookie of the Year. It was a strong year for the rookies, especially for the quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix. Even Drake May kind of had an argument, had a case. And he only played 7 games. But ultimately, Jaden Daniels had more game-defining moments from that really just set him apart from the rest of the rookies. He used his arm, he used his legs, and that's what ultimately won him Offensive Rookie of the Year. Bo Nix made a strong case. Late into the season, though. I'm assuming the voters probably already felt like, okay, this was Jaden Daniels to lose more than it was Bo Nix's to win. Brock Bowers, the tight end for the Raiders, most receptions by a rookie, shattering Puka Nakua's record from last year for defensive rookie of the year. It was interesting. You had two players from the same team being nominated, and Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, both out of FSU. Braden, more specifically, I grew up with him. Went to Michigan. We were in Michigan City together. So shout out to Braden Fisk. Ultimately, though, Jared Verse won the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Well deserved for sure. Had 8.5 sacks. Helped lead that Rams ferocious D-line all the way to the playoffs. Now it's time for probably one of the most prestigious awards that anyone could even win. The most valuable player. There's so many definitions to define the most valuable player. Like, if you were to pluck him off your team, what would happen? If you were to put another guy in that same system, what would happen? It was ultimately a three-man race between Saquon, Lamar, and Josh. Saquon on the brinks of breaking Eric Dickerson's record for the most rushing yards in a season. Josh Allen beating both the Chiefs and the Lions in the regular season, two powerhouse teams that were at the top with the weapons he had or the weapons he didn't have, doing it all himself, Josh Allen. And then there was Lamar Jackson, the first quarterback to throw over 4,000 yards and rush for over 900. Never been done before. He's also the first quarterback since Aaron Rodgers in 21, I believe it was, to have 40-plus touchdown passes and less than 5 interceptions. Now, the voters, let's get into what the process is for the voters. This article from John Breach of CBS Sports, the MVP award is voted on by 50 voters who are selected by the Associated Press. Those same voters also vote on the All-Pro teams. Lamar Jackson was a first-team All-Pro. He got 30 of the 50 first-place votes in the All-Pro voting, while Josh Allen only got 18. Which is important to note here because the All-Pro quarterback almost always ends up getting the MVP, which didn't happen in this case. Josh Allen has been awarded his first ever MVP. He threw for 3,731 yards, threw 28 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, a completion percentage of 63.6. He rushed for 531 rushing yards and had 12 rushing touchdowns as well. Don't get me wrong. Josh Allen didn't have any weapons. He didn't have that many weapons. He didn't have the Stephon Diggs. I mean, the writing was on the wall for this team by summertime. Sports channels, media outlets had this team winning maybe 5 games, maybe 6. Lamar Jackson, on the other hand, again, he was first team All-Pro, had 4,172 passing yards, 41 passing touchdowns to only 4 interceptions, completion percentage of 66.7. He had 915 rushing yards with 4 touchdowns. By the way, that's even with Derrick Henry coming in as a free agent, and he was still putting up those type of numbers. He outperformed his MVP last year. Now, do I think Josh Allen doesn't deserve it? I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it, but why not Lamar? Is it narrative-driven? Voters fatigue? What is it? Again, Josh Allen did beat 2 of the best teams in the NFL basically by himself. He did. Talking about the Chiefs and the Lions. But what is the argument? Lamar had Derrick Henry? I gave you the stats. He still rushed for almost 1,000 yards. Even with Derrick Henry, who rushed for over 1,000 yards. I'm not saying the players around Lamar Jackson are scrubs, but they're not all around the world. Zay Flowers, I think, got named to his first Pro Bowl. So he had 1 Pro Bowl receiver. He has Mark Andrews. I'll give him that. But those same voters who voted him all pro don't think he is an MVP. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to me. Again, I am not saying that Josh Allen does not deserve it. But if we look at the numbers, who is more valuable to their team? But when you think about it, yeah, if you take Josh Allen off the Bills are probably a 4-win team. You take Lamar Jackson off the Ravens, they probably get 7 wins, maybe, with that defense they have and Derrick Henry. Congratulations, though, to Josh Allen, winning his first MVP. He's having hell of a year. I think he recently just proposed too, so recently proposed. MVP. He got a $1.5 million bonus for that. But I don't think the year that Lamar Jackson had can be replicated again. He's done things that no quarterback's ever done. Granted, Lamar Jackson is a first-team All-Pro. That's still a prestigious award. They still gave him his flowers. I won't knock Josh Allen down either. Because if we really do look at it, though, if they took Josh Allen off the Buffalo Bills, they'd be looking at the number 1 overall pick. Let me know what you guys think. Did Josh Allen deserve that MVP? I'd like to know what you guys think down below. Was this deserving of Josh Allen? Was Lamar Jackson snubbed? Is there a dark horse maybe? Saquon? Anybody else out there that you believe should have won the MVP? Even with all these other awards too. Let me know your guys' opinion, what you think. And with that concludes the 105th NFL season. And that also concludes our first ever episode of This Week in Sports. And with that, y'all, I just want to thank you guys for listening. I also want to hear what you guys have to say as well. But with that also, we will be back next week with even more sports. Thank you. Have a good week.